Welcome, once again, fellow travelers, anomalies, pirates, and assorted scoundrels. On this channel, I discuss the factions that design and build the worlds we experience in our games, movies, and stories. If you're interested in seeing more of that, hit subscribe. Today, I'm doing a deep dive into the pretty amazing build system in No Man's Sky. This one's going to get pretty technical. I hope you don't mind that. As a warning, this video does contain spoilers for the story of No Man's Sky. Alright, let's get into it. Our first tentative steps in the universe are unsteady. We stumble, and sometimes we fall. The challenges we face are many, and they're great. Often the very land around us seems to fight our presence, and we have to survive on a hostile world. The wave of relief that washes over us as we finally leave that place behind is replaced with hope, but also with fear. The universe is vast, and in that unending expanse, there are uncountable worlds, with no less challenging places than the one we've just put behind us. We'll need to learn the skills to survive from those around us, and for a while, it won't be easy. From the Korvax, we'll learn the sciences. They'll teach us how to create and explore. Their ships are fast, and we'll need to learn to harness that power. The Gek will teach us about trading and farming, without which we won't get far. We'll need to learn the ways to grow many of the resources we need for food and for crafting. And the Vy'keen will teach us the ways of war. Their shields are strong and their guns bark death with every breath. Without this knowledge, nothing will be left of us but debris floating, spinning through space before we have time to react. Others will teach us as well, of course, and as we learn, we'll find that our most useful skill, the one that sees us safe more often than any other, is the skill of building. From cutting caves into the ground to hide from the ravages of a wrecking storm, to the forging of mighty city-states from which we can direct the doings of an empire of trade. We'll need sturdy walls, high towers, places for ships to land and dock. We'll need terminals and power systems and farming equipment. We'll need to cut through the very earth and stone and turn the places that fight our very existence into places we can call home. Our first step, survive. We, like many displaced or lost in lands far from home, have limited options when it comes to finding the things we need to survive. Our priorities when lost in our world today are shelter, water, food, and warmth. Not always in the same order, depending on the demands of the environment. In the Euclid galaxy, where we begin our journey, we may get lucky and find ourselves on a paradise planet with no dangerous weather, calm, herbivorous animals, and sentinels that aren't immediately hostile. That's a dream, unlikely to be true, and if you're unlucky, you'll find yourself in a toxic wasteland. Storms gather constantly, the fauna are always hungry for your blood, and the sentinels have it out for you. More than likely, though, you'll get something in between. A planet with a mild environment that you have to keep an eye on. Most species aren't a threat, and the sentinels are curious, but will leave you alone for the most part. Each of these brings its own needs. You won't need food or water, the implication being that your suit will keep you alive, plus you're mostly an illusion anyway. Warmth will be a priority if you're on a cold planet, though your suit also regulates your temperature in less extreme settings. But you're very likely to encounter storms and weather that increases the ambient hazards to something that can kill you very fast. You'll need to find shelter. You'll start with two choices. You can hide in the smoking remains of your ship when you need to, or as you go looking for resources to repair your equipment, you'll find caves and holes in the ground, and these will protect you from the worst hazards, even for a short time. Once you learn more technology, you learn to upgrade your tool with new equipment. You'll get the geology cannon, and soon you'll be able to explode craters and make your own caves when the weather gets really bad. This comes in handy a lot. Eventually, though, you'll need to start building a base, and once you learn the rudiments of the system, the technology, and how to use it, you'll be able to create much more useful structures. You'll have to place your base computer, a device made from a small amount of one of the easiest materials to produce, chromatic metal. Claim that, and you can start building. You'll probably end up with a small shack at first, something to keep you safe from the storms and hazards. If you stay on this planet, or use it as a base, you'll eventually want to renovate. I, and probably some of you, can remember a time way back in the old times. A dark era, like 9 years ago or something. Anyway, building was not like it is today. You had to find a planet you liked, search the landscape for pre-placed building spots, hope they were cool looking landscapes, and claim them. Then you had a small plot to build on, and that was about it. There was some cool stuff you could make, but the limitations were difficult to work with. Then, finally, the simulation gave us something else. Base computers you could build yourself and place anywhere. These bases, as part of the most recent updates to the system, give you near total freedom to build, minus a limitation on the number of used parts. You can build in wood, metal, stone, concrete, as well as composite materials. These will give you the look you're after. To begin, you'll need to open your build menu with the Z key. Select your parts from the list and start placing them. parts snap to one another, or you can turn snapping off using V by default. I won't go into all the various functions and buttons, but for simplicity, with the build menu open, C allows you to edit, and then hitting X on a highlighted part deletes it. Those are PC controls, I don't play on console. And B opens the build camera, a super useful tool that lets you move around and build without being tied too closely to your character's location. I talked about this in another video, I'll link it in the description. There are so many different parts and pieces of tech you can learn. You'll acquire blueprints in a number of ways, from doing missions, exploring abandoned places, to spending nanites and other currencies aboard the space anomaly. That's the basics of building. You'll find a piece of land, figure out a cool idea for a castle or a base or a house or any other interesting structure you want to build, and if you're like me, you'll get kind of addicted to it. You'll sometimes encounter large, deep bodies of water, and you might get some ideas. Well, good news. You can build bases entirely underwater using specialized parts and glass tunnel pieces. You can build an amazing ocean base. The system's great, and if used the way it was intended, you can do amazing things. However, no discussion of building in No Man's Sky would be complete without an understanding of glitching. Some of the most interesting builds have been made using glitches of some kind, from impossible pieces of art to structures of incredible size and shape. Glitches are usually based on manipulating the menu functions themselves in an unintended way, though these loopholes are usually fixed. Placing things in places they could not normally be placed is another way. I won't get into the specifics because many of these usually become obsolete or get fixed with game updates, but there are up-to-date guides and videos on the subject that you can find if you want to get into it. Now, as I've said, there are some limitations based on the number of base parts per save and the size a base can be in order to upload. The numbers are pretty massive, so it's usually not a concern unless you're really into making things super big or want to make a lot of them. That said, you can, with certain techniques and a lot of creativity, build not just bases, but cities and towns, functioning communities, and places where other travelers and denizens of the galaxy can live, work, and be part of a community. At their most basic, these things require walls, roofs, doors, windows, etc. But those aren't the only things you can make. You'll have access to a wide array of technology and machines that will make your base not just aesthetically pleasing, but functional in a number of ways. These don't just work on their own, though. They require power, and the challenge of finding, producing, and supplying power are different on each planet. In order for your base to function as anything other than just shelter, you'll need things like portals to get from place to place, trade terminals so you don't have to fly through space, risking pirate attacks just to sell some Geknip, or travel through dangerous toxic jungles to get to your spore farm. It also gets really dark on most planets, unless you hook up some powerful lights. Your security doors will remain open if no power is supplied, rendering them useless, and of course, you'll have to go out and feed animals by hand if you want to milk them. That's dangerous. And messy. Well, you'll probably first need to build a biofuel reactor, a simple device that you can throw some fuel in and run a wire to whatever you want to power. Most planets will also have hotspots of electromagnetic activity. You can find these using your analysis visor. You can take advantage of these hotspots by building electromagnetic generators in these locations. They'll continuously generate power that you can take advantage of. Wire them up to your grid and you'll get all the power you need from them. Most planets are in systems orbiting a star. That star outputs a lot of energy. You can build solar generators and hook them up to the grid as well. Eventually though, the sun goes down, fuel runs out, and the electromagnetic generators can only produce so much power. Your city of flashing lights needs way more than your network produces continuously. So, you'll need to build batteries to store your power. These can be hooked up to your generation sources using wires and tapped into by other devices connected to the network. Well, you've got wires running across your city from one end to the other. Everything has power, but the whole thing looks like it was built by a really ambitious spider. You want to clean up those wires, but you can't cut and move them without shutting everything down. Well, luckily there's a device for that. The electrical cloaking unit will hide those unsightly wires. Some machines will work simply by supplying power to them, others need to be able to be turned on or off, or need some input to operate, such as doors which need to be able to be opened and closed. You can make several types of buttons and switches which can be used for this purpose. You'll want to place the switch near the device, send power from the grid to the switch, then the switch to the machine. Figuring this out may take some practice, but it's not too complex in the end. You can install manual switches, proximity sensors, even floor plates, which will operate the device when you stand on them. You can also use them to conserve power by only operating the device when it's powered on rather than continuously. So yes, planet side, you'll need to find and build the power grid. However, you can obtain and build a base on a freighter, and those supply their own power via their reactors. No need for wires or batteries there. The trick is finding one, and chances are you're still short on funds, unless you found a planet covered in Gravitino balls, in which case, congratulations. So you make a jump into a new system and suddenly warning lights start flashing. Gunfire spits past, some bouncing off your shield. Ahead, there's a freighter and a storm of laser fire lights the sky. It would be like running a gauntlet trying to fly through it. You make a decision and swoop in, spinning in acrobatic loops and dodging enemy guns and spitting death from your cannons. Soon, the pirates are no more, blasted into debris, and you receive a hail from the captain of the vessel you just saved. On meeting face to face, he makes you an offer. The ship's yours to command. Now you've got some real power behind you. The freighter acts as a mobile base, and it can be used in that context with great results. You can now dock your ship and all the other ships you'll collect there, and begin to build a fleet of frigates to run missions for you. However, things are a little different than building planetside. You can't just build a few walls and a roof. Everything has to fit into the ship's systems, and to do that, you'll be crafting purpose-built rooms. These range from refiner rooms for crafting, fleet command rooms for mission control, trade rooms to access the galactic trade network, to nutrient processor rooms for cooking, and biological rooms covered in plant life for farming. You can head topside and expand your ship outward and up, building new rooms, catwalks, platforms, and other places to make your home in the stars. You can fill the ship with decorations as well as important objects such as storage containers, couches and chairs, lights, and even banners and designs on various surfaces. The best part is, you don't need to worry about generators and wires. It all runs on the ship's power. So you've by now found some great trade routes to fly, or you've been pirating, one or the other. You're pretty rich, and you want to settle somewhere for a bit. Somewhere nice where you can look after a community of people. Maybe help manage a population? Well, that's where settlement building comes in. It's not like base building, but your decisions do shape the physical boundaries and contents of the settlement you choose to manage. First, you'll need to find one, and this can be done by accident, by bumping into one on your travels, or by purchasing relevant maps from a cartographer on a station. Once you apply to be the overseer at the central terminal, you'll be asked to supply some material to build an office. The office will contain another terminal of its own, which you can use to manage the settlement by making decisions when prompted to do so. Do you build a landing pad or a living complex, a trade building or a saloon? Each decision will increase or decrease the stats of your settlement in one way or another, and should be managed with care. You might be asked whether to allow a new citizen to join, or to settle a conflict between citizens one way or another. These choices all add up. Periodically, sentinels will attack your settlement, and you'll be forced to defend it and your citizens. Once you drive them off, they'll stay away for a while at least. You don't get to design the settlement buildings yourself, nor choose where they're located. You'll have to provide materials periodically to get them built though. However, with a little trickery, you can turn that settlement into a base by placing a base computer a certain distance away, 300 U, at least it was at one time, and extending the build area into the settlement grounds by building towards it. Things may have changed a bit since I first tried this. I haven't checked every release log. And with that, you can start making roads, buildings, machines, power plants. Soon, your little settlement will become a living city, or whatever else you want it to be. You can even turn it into a farm and sell your agricultural goods at the settlement's trade terminals. You'll have to learn how farming works for that, though. It's not super complex, so don't worry. Your first step in farming, after learning the various blueprints and plant types from your farmer NPC, is going to be finding samples of the plants you want to grow. There are several farmable plants, and they each grow in very specific conditions. Gamma weed, for instance, grows on irradiated planets, and when harvested gives you gamma root. Solar vine grows on scorched planets and produces selenium. There are all kinds of plants. Most can be grown in indoor farms if the conditions are right. First, you'll need to create hydroponic trays. These are powered devices that will allow your plant to grow and be harvested, at which point you can replant and harvest more. Planetside, you'll want to build agricultural domes for large-scale farming. They contain built-in trays and can protect your plants from the elements. If you're on your freighter, you can build cultivation chambers of various sizes which give you all kinds of places to plant. You can also use a button to quickly harvest all the plants in a specific area. They will automatically be replanted and replenished. Farming is integral to running your empire, or your gang, or your kingdom, whatever it is you want to create. You'll need a steady supply of resources unless you want to be looking for boiling hot or incredibly radioactive planets all the time to get what you need to build one or two upgrades. Now, plants are easy. Sometimes, though, you need to collect things that can be a bit more difficult to get. And you can't farm animals on board your freighter. Not yet, at least. Milk and eggs don't grow on trees, even in a universe as vast and weird as this one. You can go around and feed individual animals creature pellets, and they'll let you milk them. This can be time consuming, and you'll want to speed up the process a bit. First, you'll want to set up automated feeders. These machines can be filled with bait and will attract animals from all over the landscape. From there, you can hook up and power a livestock unit to extract milk, eggs, or other products from them without harming the creatures. In my experience, you'll have the best luck setting up farms where animals wander freely in large numbers, but I think they'll work in less populated areas as well. It's a simple setup, and you can get all kinds of cool resources you need to cook and craft. Mind you, sometimes a planet's terrain is a little too rough. Holes all over the place that fall into deep caves, jagged rocky hills all over the place that are difficult to build or climb over. You'll need to do something about that if you want animals to be able to get to your feeders. Now, you have at least 2 terraforming tools that you can use to change the landscape to suit your needs. There's the terrain manipulation tool, a precise beam that can shape the landscape in a number of ways. Then there's the geology cannon, which can also change the landscape by turning large chunks of it into small pieces very quickly. You'll want to focus on the more accurate tool for now, especially if you want to create something usable. Now, if you're near a settlement, you won't be able to terraform within town limits, so you'll need to be well away from the area. The first thing you find when you switch to the tool is the mine function. This allows you to quickly remove ground in a controlled manner. It'll quickly become important when you want to mine deposits of minerals like gold or emerald that are embedded in the ground. This tool is the only way to get them out. You can also dig down or through the dirt, creating tunnels and passageways or large empty spaces. You'll gain silicate powder for digging through rock, which can be refined into glass. You'll need a lot of glass for your dome farms and freighter corridors. The beam size defaults to a small sphere. This can be made larger to cut or create much more terrain per shot. Cycling past the mine function, you'll find the create function. This allows you to build terrain in any shape you want, almost like drawing with it on a page, though you'll create a fully 3-dimensional rendering in the medium of choice. Shapes you create will be formed along a visible flat plane that can be rotated and moved to allow for intricate building of shapes. You can use this to make bridges between 2 pieces of distant land, build earthen walls, or draw rude shapes near your friends' bases. You can switch the appearance of this type of ground you're building with, from bare rock to the inside stone of a cave or underwater dirt. This lets you create terrain that fits into most environments. The flatten mode allows you to flatten large areas of ground quickly for easy building. This will come in handy for those animal farms. And lastly, the restore feature highlights any changes you've made, and when fired at the area will undo those changes quickly, returning the landscape to its natural form, erasing mistakes and letting you start over again if you need to. These tools allow you to mold the places you find into an artistic canvas and make them your own. We've traveled so far and seen so many amazing places in our journey. Planets filled with brand new life forms and brimming with dangerous challenges to overcome. We've seen the things our fellow travelers have built, their cities and their farms, their ruins and their machines. Wonders abide across the stars, waiting to be found. We can use the tools given to us to create our own. The creative freedom we have is immense, and the restrictions don't, for the most part, feel too restrictive. You'll find amazing things built by others, undersea wonders, massive halls filled with trophies, palaces floating above the clouds, towers balanced on top of spars of stone. There are a few things you can't do, and with that knowledge, go forth and express yourself. Just be careful whose planet you're making dirty sculptures on. They may have better guns than you. Well, that's my take on the build system of No Man's Sky. I find it really interesting, and if you want to see how interesting, hit subscribe. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate everyone who sticks around, especially if you make it to the end. If you like the video, please hit like. If you've built any really cool stuff, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, and before you go, I want to shout out to my patrons who help support the channel. Our $10 patron is Watuki at the artisan level. If you want to get your name in the credits, head on over and sign up. The Patreon link is in the description. You'll get access to an exclusive Discord server and some exclusive art and stories that you can use or discuss and contribute to. And remember, if you find pirates shooting at you, shoot them back with something bigger. Warning shots won't do much. Alright, thanks everyone. Bye Internet.